And the UFC is finally disbanded as it crashes and burns, and Dana White is on trial for crimes against humanity at The Hague. They're going to open up a museum. The museum is going to be dedicated to the victims of the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship organization. And they're going to have to put a curtain up in front of the display. And they're going to have a little sign that says, if you have post-traumatic stress disorder from watching the UFC, between these years, you might want to consider not looking at this display. And if you go behind the curtain, it's just this fight night.
Yeah, it was pretty rough, wasn't it? Kind of hard to watch.
This was UFC slop at its highest degree. We got 3 submissions. And besides that, we were just having a lot of deciding going on because no one could do anything. And it sucked. There were a couple interesting moments, but like the best fights were the submissions because the submissions ended the fights early and they didn't have to watch it anymore.
Yeah, and welcome to the UCF Podcast. We got to leave a little early edition. Serghei Spivac was watching this fight card just like the rest of us. He's in the locker room watching the TVs, thinking to himself, are you guys fucking serious? Does no one on this card know how to fight? Do you not know I'm headlining? And then he realized, oh, wait, no one gives a fuck about me. And that probably sucks, but it did give him the motivation he needed to get a performance of the night bonus in his win over Marcin Tybura. And out of all the guys on this card, Serghei Spivac, the polar bear, does deserve this bonus because as soon as he got in the cage, he got busy. Combined, they threw less than 10 punches, and that's because Serghei got a takedown. He moved in for that submission, and as soon as he had the armbar, he pulled on it as hard as he could. And Tybura, the pull on his arm had to be so tight because Tybura couldn't even let go with his other arm from defending the submission. He had to verbally tap, screaming to Herb Dean, please stop. I would say an awesome win for Serghei Spivac, but it's really not. Like Marcin Tybura is already where Serghei Spivac is, and Spivac's setback against Cyril Gahn really is hard to get past because I don't think Serghei ever gets into like that title picture. And if he does, Lord have mercy on us. Heavyweight is getting worse. I don't know how that's possible. Now, joking on Serghei aside, memeing on him aside, this is like the first armbar win in a decade at heavyweight. Serghei Spivac is upping the degree of skill at heavyweight within the grappling. His biggest problem is his takedowns, and they're just not pretty, and they're not always working for him. But in this fight, it was more than enough. And, I'm talking longer than this fight went on. Minute 44 of round number 1, dude. It was over.
Yeah. Honestly, heavyweight wrestling sucks ass so often that I could really appreciate this one. It wasn't quite textbook, but it felt pretty close in regards to that armbar. The commentators were like joking. They've never seen a heavyweight armbar in so long. And then right after that, it happened. Very good, very clean. I don't think it's that impressive or anything. I mean, Tybura isn't that good. He's pretty old. He's not exactly like some top contender, but I mean, hey, a win's a win. And it was nice at the end of the night to have something that was kind of interesting, kind of exciting, just to clean it up. Good job, Spivac. You earned it.
In our co-main event, this fight also was pretty fun. The very end of this card, the very tail end, finally saw a little bit of excitement in action. And Damon Jackson, the leech, if you will, got his ass whooped. He really did. And Chepe Mariscal didn't look like he's ready to be in that top of the featherweight division yet. But he did look pretty good, all things considered. He was up against an extremely slow fighter in Damon Jackson. So if you go and watch, you're not going to watch his fight back. You didn't watch it the first time.
Don't watch it.
But if you were hypothetically insane and wanted to watch this fight back, look at these scores. Every single judge is awarding at least 1-10-8 round to Chepe Mariscal. That's how dominant this performance was. Damon Jackson had no success out of like the first striking exchange. I think he actually tagged Chepe. But after that, over and over. What I mean by Damon being so slow with his reactions is just every single time a scramble would start, Chepe's every move was at normal speed, and Damon Jackson's every move was at like 50% speed. Or it just looked like Chepe was, I don't even know, man. Like the fact that Damon Jackson was just getting like shucked off positions, he was getting thrown around in these grappling transitions. And I mean, that's most of what this fight was just scrambling, rolling, posturing on the fence. There were some pretty good shots on the ground, like a lot of ground and pound. And especially in rounds 2 and 3, Chepe Mariscal just beat the shit out of Damon Jackson and really put on a clinic for how not to punch a dude in the back of the head when he's trying to show you the back of his head. And that's most of what Damon Jackson really did in rounds 2 and 3 was try to show Chepe the back of his head to not get punched. And he still got punched. So while this fight was going on, because the fight beforehand was so bad, I was interested in this. And I was actually impressed by what Mariscal was doing. He's durable. He doesn't really get tired, man. He kept going all 3 of those rounds. And Damon Jackson did get tired, and he was the one supposed to be pushing the pace. So that's at least a good sign going forward for the machine gun. I hope we see some more on the feet fighting next time from him. But he's shown, man, he has the ground game.
Dude, I don't think this fight should have happened whatsoever. Mariscal has now won all 4 of his fights in the UFC. He's looked very good in all of them. He's been pretty dominant in all of them. Some a little closer than others, but this just shouldn't have even fucking happened. I don't even know why this happened, that he was put in just to annihilate Damon Jackson for 3 rounds for like no reason. It almost looks bad that he didn't get the finish. I guess, right?
Oh
just
my
to get
God.
the cut.
Cue the interview pictures with him where he has the just haircut. That's why they had to do it to him.
You got to put it in there. But like, I don't know, man. It just feels like this fight shouldn't have even been set up. I guess maybe they just looked at this shit and were like, wow, this fight night is just total slop. We have to throw in some like beat the shit out of a guy fight. But I don't know. I mean, it was kind of fun to watch relative to some of this other shit. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, like Mariscal probably should have been fighting someone better. It probably would have been a more exciting fight if he fought someone better. But whatever. He obviously wins. He looked pretty good. But fuck up, man. I don't know. I think most people look pretty good against Damon Jackson at this point. That's what I got.
Yeah, you're not wrong. One last thing about this fight. Again, we're talking about it more than it deserves airtime, but I just really like the total strike comparison here of 49 landed versus 218. And then if we scroll down to by position, just the vast majority of that is on the ground or in the clinch. And actually, Damon Jackson's only strikes were like knees in the clinch, man. This was so pathetic.
It's just brutal, man.
Anyways, on to a fight that sucked even harder somehow.
Oh, let's go, dude.
Danny Barlow, in my research ahead of time, because I was like, who is Nikolai Veretennikov? But then I also started looking into like, who is Danny Barlow? Danny Barlow in this fight looked like Leon Edwards in his last title defense, where he did just absolutely nothing. But the difference was that Nikolai was also doing nothing, so that was enough to get a win. And just Danny Barlow, his posture, his sort of reactions, his looks, I'm really seeing another Leon Edwards in the division, and that's just not a good sign because that means you're not doing enough. Barlow seemed to be faster. He seemed to catch Veretennikov a few times and then just did nothing. And I mentioned the pre-fight research. Danny Barlow is from like a small town gym that has a couple coaches that have been around, and he's like their best athlete, I think, right now. They might have a kickboxer as well. But Danny Barlow is the face of a gym. You can do better than that if you have a whole team behind you. I really hope he does better in his next one out. Both of these guys are supposed to be knockout artists, and it looks like they scared each other early. They both felt a little bit of the power the other guy had, and it just stopped the whole fight. I hate it. Why are there so many? Like, actually, though, and I'm going to be a little bit fucking mad here because this is the truth. Why are so many fighters actually pussies today? What happened? I guess to some extent, the embarrassing KO loss is such a horrible thing. The UFC using your face getting knocked out for years to come is such a deterrent. Guys are just afraid to trade punches. And it's pathetic because both of these guys have power. Both of these guys could reasonably walk into any bar in your town and whoop the biggest dude. Why are they not fighting each other? I hate it, man.
Yeah, well, that's
I would
part of
say
it, though,
nice
dude.
win, but fuck you, Danny Barlow.
Dude, nice. This was such a weird thing. I have to point out that Nikolai got a 30-27 for one of the judges. That is why it is a split decision. Eternal evidence that the judges, and I don't even really blame them that much for this night, but holy fuck were they clocked out. You're giving a 30-27 to the guy that lost? You just put random numbers down at that point. I don't know how the fuck you get a 30-27 for Nikolai out of this. Yeah, this fight wasn't really good. Kind of slow, kind of shitty. I mean, again, I think that both of these guys could have done a lot better. Like you were saying. I mean, Barlow does like a fucking backflip or whatever, or a front flip, like after he wins. It's like, what? You're saving all the energy for that? I guess. But I honestly do think there's something to be said about how the UFC is set up and how devastating a knockout loss can be that turns guys that really like they want to protect themselves, they want to protect their personal brand. If you get like an embarrassing knockout, especially on a fight night, that could just be it, dude. That could be like, see you on the fucking prelims on a fight night a few months from now. And if you lose that, you're out. Like, I don't know if there's anything that could really be done about it, but I think that is at least occasionally the reason why guys like this don't go in that hard. Because both these guys have just started in the UFC, right? That was Nikolai's, it was his debut. Barlow, that was his second fight. You know, imagine if Barlow gets knocked out. Now he's 2-0, right? But imagine if he'd been knocked out and it looked really stupid as he got knocked out. That could have been it for him, right? He would have been difficult to market. UFC would have been like, yeah, fuck it. We'll do another fight night and, you know, just see what happens from there. You have to really climb back up if you get fucked over like that. And it leads to some of these shitty, just dog shit fights that suck ass. I don't even know what the solution is, but I don't like it either. Whatever, Danny Barlow.
I continue, and I'm actually thinking about doing a video on this. Watch out for that one, guys.
Oh my God.
Did Dana White's Contender Series and the UFC's general change in strategy of fighter acquisition ruin the sport? My answer is maybe, because you look at guys who have actually turned into stars in the UFC in like the last 5 years, almost not a single one of them is a Contender Series guy. It's like Alex Pereira, who came from kickboxing, Justin Gaethje, who came from outside of the UFC, Michael Chandler, who came from Bellator. Like any of these bigger names that showed up. Even Conor McGregor had a Cage Warriors record or a title. I think he had 2 titles in Cage Warriors before he came to the UFC. The fact that the UFC is sniping young talent before they get a chance to establish themselves might also be a reason. But I'm going to shelve that because I don't have all the evidence together on that. But that's my rant on why Danny Barlow sucks, and I hate him even though he won. And Nikolai Veretanikov, dude, if you get a second UFC fight, you are lucky because I wouldn't give you one.
God.
Before that, a late replacement fight. Woohoo. Chris Gutierrez versus Quang Lee. This fight was, of the fights that we're talking about, this is the first one that we got wrong on our picks so far.
Yeah,
so
we both believed in Quang Lee. It was misplaced, I believe.
Yep. There was just one thing that Chris Gutierrez had that Quang Lee could not deal with, and it was the low kick. Chris Gutierrez is known for his low kicks. They're his most dangerous weapon. And kind of just like Israel Adesanya, when someone gets a really good low kick and they don't have to do anything else, God, good luck watching their fights, man. It's going to suck because the actual threat of the low kick is so serious. And the only counter Quang Lee could come up with in this fight was trying to catch a low kick, trying to grab a guy's foot from your like calf region. The fact that Chris Gutierrez wasn't then setting up like leads or just like building off of his low kick is frustrating as well. But just like with that Israel Adesanya comparison, if you sit back at range, if you're the taller, longer fighter, if you have long legs, strong, fast kicks, you can brutalize the other guy for 5 rounds and make it look like nothing is happening. And your opponent can't actually get to you because there is this very serious... I'm going to zoom in on Quang Lee's calf from last night. It's actually really nasty. It's mangled, and it's terrible to watch. He ended up, again, like I said, he was trying to catch those kicks. He ended up just trying to mix in the grappling. It was the only area he had success in this fight. He got 2 of 11 takedowns, 4 minutes of control time. Just wasn't enough. El Guapo, man, it's just performances like these do not make fans of the people watching your fights, you know?
Yeah.
Now the next time out, dude, I hope he gets KO'd.
Right?
There's a lot of guys. Serghei Spivac is the only. Oh, I should say Serghei Spivac and Chepe Mariscal, two of the only dudes coming off this card looking good.
Yeah, like if you can just sit back and have a really campy fight where you just lay back with your range and do kicks, like, yeah, you'll win, but everyone's gonna fucking hate you. I guess that's why he's lucky he's on a fight night. No one watched it, right? You didn't watch this, did you, listener? I hope you didn't. I hope you're getting a blowjob instead, because much better time spent. Quang Lee really did try on those takedowns, and I respected it, but fuck, man, 2 out of 11. This is a guy who I know does grappling too. I get it was his first fight in the UFC. He's a light replacement, so I don't want to hold it against him too hard, but I kind of was hoping that was going to be, you know, he'd be able to mix some things in, be a bit of a toolbox, but no. He didn't have much. The lights were in his eyes. Gutierrez.
No, toolbox closed. I'm afraid both of these men were tools.
Oh, no, dude. You can't say that.
Oh, but I just did.
Oh my God, cut that. Oh my God, cut it.
And before that.
Holy shit. Okay. Chelsea Chandler is on my shit list permanently. Fuck you, Chelsea Chandler.
I'm not. Okay, actually, I am going to shit on Chelsea Chandler. For a second, I was going to say
14.
that Yana Santos' performance actually was pretty good, but Chelsea Chandler missed weight.
By like 5 pounds. You miss weight, you go in, and you just get kicked a whole bunch and punched a whole bunch. You're just like, I don't know, dude. Fuck you. Ranked 14.
This fight had the highlights of the evening. I'm going to insert. I know I have the one clip of Yana Santos throwing like the not quite an axe kick, like a push kick to the face of Chelsea Chandler, and Chandler just falling forward and almost punching her in return. Something very rare in a women's fight. We have a knockdown from Yana Santos. The striking numbers, like she's doubled the output. She's doubled like the strikes landed. The accuracy is like 70% to 45, or should I say 69%? Nice.
Dude, cut that fucking part out now.
No, it's in. It's staying in. Just like all of these fights are staying in my memory, and no amount of substance abuse.
My nightmares.
Santos, honestly, she wound back the clock. This was a nice performance. One of the more exciting fights on the evening, which should say a lot about the evening. We have been already. She mixed in excellent kicks, lots of punching. As you can see, no takedowns attempted. These girls were just trying to throw down a distance, a little bit of cage work going on when Chelsea Chandler was getting like just pieced up at range. But this was an impressive performance from Yana Santos. And like I'm saying, she gave a better account of herself than most of the dudes on this card. So yeah, props to
Santos looked really good. I honestly do worry a little bit though that she looked that good because Chandler sucked so much ass. I don't want to read a little bit too much into a performance here, but yeah, a solid win. I was happy that you could kind of bring it around after some of the fucking stinkers in the prelims. But I don't know, not that impressive to me personally, but maybe I'm just whiny and bitchy.
Yep. Another performance that what makes me whiny and bitchy. Not on the part of the guy who won. Toshiomi Kazama looked about as good as he could. Sharon Lampolis Gregorio is a spaz, and that's about it. And I had hoped for more from him. Obviously, you were right on this one, right? You did pick Toshiomi.
Yeah.
And you knew exactly how it was going to go down because Gregorio, you're right, cannot grapple at all. He came real close. He came real close to knocking out Toshiomi a couple of times, which is how I thought this was going to go down. But just as soon as it hits the mat, any defense, any sort of safety concerns, Sharon Lampolis tapped out a loss real quick. And he ended up on the ground after knocking down Toshiomi too. So yeah, very disappointing.
A striker just gets eaten up by a grappler, and like he's winning. He's got him like rattled a few times, and that just the second he gets on the ground is just immediately collapsed. I don't know how you even get into the octagon at this point like that. I think to some extent, if you can't even consider yourself ready to go fight if you are actually going to go on the ground and just get eaten up immediately. And yeah, you know, you got to have your things that you specialize in, but fuck, man, I don't know. New guy in the UFC. He's coming in there. He's getting against the guy that's also pretty new in the UFC and just has no grappling whatsoever. It feels like you're just fucking throwing at that point. Like you're screwing yourself over. You got to go in there. You got to spend a few days working on some basic defensive shit so you can get back up on your feet and throw your striking again. And he didn't. And he got eaten up. And it was kind of a funny finish. He was like squeezed. His like shoulder and his head were like getting vice gripped. Anyway, yeah, good job, Kazuma.
Yeah, and honestly, triangle chokes are so rare these days. To see guys snatching them up, even in the modern era, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So good win for Kazama, but man, that chin is no good.
No, he's a guy with a little more power, a little more accuracy, a little more finesse. He's just going to get knocked out. But thankfully, not this time when I picked him.
That's right. Someone who I did not pick, and
yeah, it's good thing we don't like women here.
The commentary team was talking like Carol Rosa was setting some records. They were talking like she was doing things we never seen before. Carol Rosa won this fight pretty handily. It was a bloody battle for as long as it lasted. As you can see from our striking stats here, it was pretty close, and both of these girls did actually go for it. They pushed pretty hard. But what Carol Rosa was throwing was just landing a little bit harder. Pani was a bloody mess by the end of round number 3. Not exciting per se, but these girls were fighting really hard.
Yeah.
Ironically, because it's so much harder for these women to knock each other out, sometimes they do just fight harder because the consequences are less severe. Nice win for Rosa. She gets to shake off that robbery she got over Yana Santos. Maybe, honestly, those two just coming off of wins, match them up again. Do it.
Yeah, you might as well, right? Put them on a numbered thing. Let them go at it. Fucking featured prelim or something. Give me a call, Dana.
He's not gonna.
I need to testify at your trial.
He texted me that he wants you to stop calling him.
Oh my god, dude. He's so whiny. Yeah, Rosa looking pretty good. These two, after so many guys saying we're going to go to war that they don't go to war, I kind of appreciated these two women actually did beat the shit out of each other for a little bit. Nothing too insane, nothing too exciting, but that's a lot of punches getting thrown, a lot of significant strikes. It's women's bantamweight significant strikes, so nothing to write home about, but I can still appreciate that for what it was. I honestly thought that Kanzad was going to pull it off here, but Rosa has proven me wrong. Good job, Rosa.
And moving down the card,
it's over, dude.
This fight is, I'm only upset because I picked the wrong guy, but we described exactly how this fight would go one way or the other. Why Carl Williams decided to wait until round number 3 to really commit to his grappling, I'm not sure. He really spent a lot of time trying to set up the most obvious telegraphed overhand right you can imagine against the kickboxer Janata Deniz. Deniz looked like he hurt Williams a couple of times on the feet. Didn't shake him too much, but definitely woke him up, caught his attention. Williams was just caught standing there for long stretches of this fight. And in round number 3, it's so frustrating to watch a guy finally get the fight where he wants it. And, he's working towards a finish. He's ending the fight with elbows on top, but it's just not enough. He's already lost the first 2 rounds really one-sidedly. Deniz, man. So here's your fight to look forward to in the future. Deniz is showing that he has some takedown defense, but once he's on the mat, he cannot get up. He's pretty good on the feet, but once he's on his back, he does not get up. In his UFC debut, he spent all of round number 1 on his butt. In this second fight, he spent a lot of round number 5 on his butt. He did defend 3 of the 5 takedowns, that were shot on him by Carl Williams, who's getting takedowns in the heavyweight division. So it's not like this is a bad win. It's just in the same way that we have to watch out for Kazama's chin, Deniz on his butt is not a good place to be. But he's got time, man, and this is his second UFC fight. He's in the heavyweight division, which is always pretty much wide open. It's just you think about, who's in the main event. Spivac would, I imagine, take him down in round number 1 and just immediately submit him. So hopefully Deniz can work on that because he does. He is actually kind of exciting. He's fast on the feet. He has power, and he's defensively sound as well. Carl Williams landing 34% of his significant strikes in this fight. So I will say it on this one. Nice win for Janata Deniz. Your fight didn't suck. And a little bit earlier in the evening, I felt like this fight card could be good. So
he tricked you, dude. So it's kind of like bad in a way. He deceived you.
Oh,
Carl Williams for rounds 1 and 2 kind of looked like a Dark Souls 1 boss, and that everything was just heavily choreographed, and then every time he would do something, he'd get hit like 4 times. Um,
yeah.
Not what I thought was going to happen. It kind of shocked that we just get no attempts really at grappling. In round 2, 0 takedown attempts at all. At least in round 1, he tried a little bit. Kind of shocking. I would love to get in his brain and be like, why did you do that? I could understand round 1 maybe a little bit, like, oh, like, see how it goes standing up. But when you're struggling after round 1, shouldn't the corner be like, hey man, remember that wrestling shit you did? Remember that time you practiced all that practicing we did wrestling? Maybe you should do that. And then he doesn't for the entirety of round 2. Round 2 is just a replay. And then all of a sudden in round 3, he gets him on the ground. It is just blatantly like winning this round. Like what? He thought it was 5 rounds by accident? He didn't realize? I don't know, just a stupid fucking way to go, all things considered. But Deniz took advantage of that just incredibly strange gap in his game plan, exactly how he needed to do it. So, props to Deniz. You earned it. I mean, Williams is stupid, but you did earn it.
He is kind of dumb. Another one of our performance of the night bonuses going to the Moroccan Devil, Yusuf Zalal. I'm so happy this fight went like 120% like I predicted, because this is the one that I was the most convinced. I was the most sure at the time that we were, making the recording. Vegas was the most sure about this one too. Ended exactly like I figured it would. As soon as Yusuf Zalal could get onto the back of Jarno Aarons, which was moments after they hit the mat, it was over. Aarons he looked strong on the feet. He's just a little bit plodding. He's a little bit too slow. And yeah, as soon as it goes to the mat, it's done. I will say, however, because in the pre-fight video, I said he has never defended a takedown in the UFC thus far. He was 0-7. He now has 1 takedown defended in the UFC. And I knew when I saw him defend that takedown, I thought to myself, obviously, because I called it out, he's going to start defending takedowns. But he did not defend the second one, and he snapped up that rear naked choke as soon as he got him to the mat.
Yeah, this was really good, really impressive. I always love backpacking type finishes. They're always like kind of fun. Zalal really held on to that shit. I don't know. Like, this is the one that kind of gave me hope early in the night that we might have like a pretty decent card going on here. But yeah. Unfortunately, it's not how it ended up going. But I was pretty happy for Zalal. This is a solid win. Yeah. I don't know, not that much more to say. It was pretty quick, but Aaron's kind of sucks. Can I say it? Is that a little rude?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said in the pre-fight, he's not terrible on the feet, and if he can get into like a scrappy kickboxing battle, he's going to have a good time. But that's just not what Yusuf Zalal signed up to do.
Did not have a good time this time, did he?
Nope. And in the first fight of the evening,
this is what I was right about.
Stephanie Luciano beating up Talita Alencar, getting all 3 rounds. Yeah, we did both call this one correctly. Pretty happy about that.
Didn't you pick Alencar?
No, I did not.
Okay.
No, we both picked Luciano because she was taller.
She was just tall. Alencar, just a little girl. As it turns out, that sort of range and distance can mean a lot. I still have no idea how the fuck they drew on the Contender Series, but whatever. I'm not watching that shit.
It was actually because of a 10-8 round in the third.
Oh yeah,
that's what went down.
Interesting.
I will say that I don't want to sell Luciano short, because in this fight she timed a bunch of like really impressive shots. She lands really. She had like a knee that split open Talita's face, I think, and her takedown defense was almost perfect. She defended 9 of 10 takedowns. So even though both of these girls did not land most of what they threw, it's because Stephanie Luciano was making sure she was defensively sound, making sure she was not going to get caught by a takedown loading up on a punch, and made sure that she was landing the more impressive shots. Now, that is a game plan that is harder and harder to implement as you start to run into better and better talent. But I'm really interested to see if she can keep up this impressive striking game, because she didn't look half bad. I'll say that.
Yeah, not a bad opener, I guess, for her UFC debut. She'll probably go up against someone better next time, obviously. But it was looking pretty solid, all things considered. So maybe there's some hope there. Maybe she'll be pretty impressive moving forward. I mean, women's divisions could always use impressive strikers. So
yeah, they really could. And this has been our fight night, Tybura versus Spivac 2.
I hope you didn't watch it. I hope you just listened to this.
I forgot to mention it as we were going through the fight itself, but I do also want to mention we had 2 people miss weight. It wasn't just Chelsea Chandler. Chepe Mariscal also missed weight.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
But I didn't want to shit on him too much because
that's why he won though, because he missed weight. I take it back. Give it back to Damon Jackson now.
False.
Rematch?
I do just want to say this. He did. It's because sometimes when guys decide they're not going to make weight, or I should say when a guy decides he's not going to make weight, it's when he quits cutting himself. But Chepe Mariscal went to the UFC doctors at the Institute, and they're the ones who forced him to stop cutting weight. So I don't want to take a huge amount away from him. You know, he gave up a percentage of his fight purse to Damon Jackson anyways. And I don't think if he made weight, it would be a different fight. I think if he made weight, he'd probably have more energy and he would have knocked out Damon Jackson. But yeah, I do just briefly want to mention that as well, that Chepe did have trouble with the scales, which is interesting being as like short and compact as he is. But yeah, really the only guys who looked good on this card were Serghei Spivac. Chepe looked all right. I will say Toshiomi looked good with the finish, but not in general, and Yusuf Salal looking good. But yeah, this card was long stretches of shit you didn't want to see. So that's why we watched it for you.
Yeah.
And make sure to join us later this week as we break down this next weekend's fight card. We'll see you then, and take care, guys.
Okay, good guys. Bye.